All right. Hello and welcome. My name is Barbara Wainwright. I'm the founder of Wainwright Global Institute of Professional Coaching. I'm also the author of 2 books available on Amazon, The Power of Life Coaching. And I have also trained over 6,000 professional coaches throughout the world. And I'm really excited to be here with Kate Frank, who is a ghostwriter. And she works with people who have already established their expertise in their field of work. Her clients include public speakers, coaches, C-suite professionals, physicians, and other thought leaders who are serious about making a difference in their lives of their readers. And these authors have already proven their authority. Now they want to expand their influence with a book of their own. So welcome, Kate. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Barbara. It's quite my honor.
All right. I'm just delighted to have you here. I think I'm really excited about learning more about what a ghostwriter does, particularly hearing about you and your story. So would you share a little bit about you before we get started about ghostwriting?
Well, my name is Kate Frank. If you want to know of me before I became a professional writer, I went by the name of Kathy, Kathi Frank. And it's a long story that I could, if you're curious, I could tell you the story or send you to a page where you could learn about it. But I am here in Houston. I'm a single woman. I am in my 60s and writing is my sole income. So it's a big motivator. So I got started in ghostwriting. I was working as a copywriter, and for anybody that doesn't know what a copywriter is somebody who, sorry about that, somebody who basically promotes action from the reader, or advertising in print is what they call it in some places. And it takes a different kind of skill. I've gotten a lot of training in copywriting. And then one day, about 4 years ago, I heard a speaker that really impressed me. And so therefore, when he got finished speaking, I go to the back of the room and I buy his book. I bring it home and I go, ugh, because it was written in doctoral level of language, and it was just a wall of words, very, very hard to read. And I go, I could really help Dennis. He could sell, because what happens now is he speaks, people buy his book, they take it home, they don't read it, they don't tell anybody. And so therefore he has to constantly be out there speaking and selling books, where when a book is written for today's internet-enabled reader, then what happens is you speak, they buy the book in the back of the room. They're very impressed by how easy it is to read. They get the tidbits in a way that doesn't have to tax their brain, and they tell others. And the book goes viral. That's what every author should have. So I stepped into ghostwriting and never turned back.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you've been doing it for about 4 years is, I think, what I heard, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's really great. All right. So enough about you. Let's move into ghostwriting.
Works for me.
You know, I think one of the things that I've heard a lot of big stars and very well-known books have been written by ghostwriters. Mm-hmm. And people think that, wow, that person's so amazing and so smart and look at all the books they sold. And the truth is they didn't even write them. Do you know a couple of books that you could speak to that are true about that?
Well, let's not challenge my memory.
Okay.
But I will tell you that the estimates are somewhere between 70 to 95% of the books, nonfiction books that are written by a ghostwriter.
Wow.
Now, that sounds like there's all these writers out there writing for others as if the ideas and the concepts and the words are coming from the ghostwriter. And that's a misnomer. That's not what's going on if it's a good ghostwriter. And I could get into what I consider a good ghostwriter, but bottom line is I consider myself more like a scribe. When one of the most famous people out there as far as his philosophies and his thoughts was Socrates.
Yes.
You never saw him with a quill pen in his hand. You saw scribes sitting beside him taking notes and writing down what he had to say. Well, if it was good enough for Socrates, it's good enough for today's authority thought leader.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I think that's really a key point. You're not really writing the book for them, even though you kind of are.
Well,
but you're really taking their ideas and their concepts and you're putting it into a framework that people want to read and like can't put the book down, got to learn more. Wow, this person's amazing. I need to connect with him on a personal level and find out more, or I need to go to his event, or they want to get involved with them because you've really spoken to that person in a manner that is engaging and attractive to them. And like you mentioned of the gentleman that you saw his book and it was like you said, at the PhD level, where somebody might not be able to understand exactly what they're trying, the point is.
Well, they may be able to understand it, but they don't want to work that hard. That's me.
Yeah, get that. Right. They don't want to work that hard to understand the message. It should be a lot more clear and succinct and easy to read and engaging and attract people to keep wanting to read more and then get to know that person on a deeper level, right? So I love that that's what you do. And I know we had a chance to talk prior to this call, and I loved a lot of the information that you were sharing with me. It was just really powerful. Your methodology for helping people to get that book out there and serve as a ghostwriter is amazing. And I would love it if you would share a little bit about the process that you go through with somebody who would want to hire a ghostwriter to help them with their book.
Sure. If you talk to almost any other ghostwriter and almost any other publisher and you say that you want a book, they will tell you the first thing to do is to sit down and start writing or, write an outline or something like that.
Synopsis.
Yeah, something like that. And I think that is absolutely the wrong place to start. First of all, everybody that I've ever met or worked with has at least 3 books in them. They know that selling a book is not where they're going to make their money. They're going to make their money from the platform that the book creates, where they can launch from that to some other profitability thing. And that's particularly important for coaches because there are coaches everywhere.
Right.
And so a good coach has differentiated themselves from other coaches, but it's very hard to really show how much they know in any other way to communicate other than a book.
Right.
And with a book, like I say, every coach that you've trained has at least 2 books in them or more. And so where to start is with an inventory of all that expertise. And I use 3x5 cards, very easy. I keep 3x5 cards with me everywhere I go. And you don't want to write anything more than a keyword. Every time you talk to a client and there was something profound that happened in that session, write their name down and a couple of words to describe what happened, because that story, of course, anonymized, that story is going to be powerful in your book. Where if you don't use somebody like me to help you get that out, what you're going to do is you're going to be the authority sitting up here telling the reader what you know. Well, they don't care. Yeah, they want, instead they want to read those things wrapped around stories of people that are like them.
Right.
Identify with what you tell them about your coaching with somebody and
Right.
the breakthrough that they made and the life-changing things that happen. And if you do that right, then your book is going to be more interesting. We'll structure it in such a way that these things pop out. And so these cards are important, and I suggest you go ahead and go through in a 100-pack. Because you've got more than 100 concepts and stories to share. And then when you get to that point, or before you get to that point, you're going to start seeing a pattern. And what you want to look for is, because the step 2 is your reader analysis. Mm-hmm. So your readers are similar to your clients. So what is it about clients that fits these cards the most, and start stacking them in separate stacks, because the things that they want the most from you, the most impact that you've made, is what you want to write your book on. You may have 4 other books that you know about and that you could be an expert about, but if it's not about your reader, then the book is going to be a whole lot less valuable.
Oh, that's so brilliant. So doing an inventory of all your skills and everything that you kind of done to affect positive change in people's lives, that would be a good thing to take notes on. I love the idea about the index cards and having people get their information identified that way. And a great idea to say, make a note of who it was and the keywords of what happened in that experience. Mm-hmm. And being able to gather all that together to create a book is brilliant. I love that. And the next step you said after gathering all that information was to sort through and categorize which ones fit in this book or that book?
Not yet. Oh, not yet. Step 2 is to analyze who your reader is. And since we're talking to coaches, your readers are going to be very similar to your clients.
Yes.
So analyze them. Figure out where they hang out when they're not being coached. Do they hang out at Facebook? Do they go to events? And if they go to events, what kind of events do they go to? And really get into step 2 is the reader analysis, who they are. But as coaches, you already know that, so you don't need to spend a whole lot of time. Right. But the target communities might take a little bit longer for you to really look at your clients outside the coaching experience. Where are they? What's important to them? And the reason why we want to do that is because step 4 is about revenue modeling. Oh. So therefore, if you know where they're hanging out, you know what you know who they are, you know where they're hanging out, then step 4 is to figure out, okay, now how do I leverage that? If you like to do public speaking, that's one thing. If you like to hold workshops, that's another. If you enjoy leading Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or something like that, great. Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is that is important to you to reach more people like your best clients, then you want to do that step 4 before we ever do an outline.
Love that. I love that. So you're finding out who you're determining who your clients are, who's the book really written for, where do they hang out, and what impact how are you going to leverage the book when you get out, once it's complete and done? How are you going to leverage that book to help you make money and become the authority in your field, more so than you would if you didn't have a book? I think having a book is really important, and it was something I resisted for years, Kate. I didn't want to write a book for years. And I've got 2 books out on Amazon right now, but they're both compilation books. It's where I had my coaches write a chapter, and then I wrote a chapter, but it was only a chapter because the thought of writing a book is like so overwhelming. It's like, how do you get started? How would you even do that? So I think some of the questions that are authors may be wanting to ask is, would it be cheating to hire a ghostwriter, or do I have to do it myself?
Absolutely the opposite. Absolutely the opposite. And I want to say something about your statement earlier. The idea of marketing your book after it's out, I think, is getting the cart before the horse. Because once we have figured out how you're going to make revenue from being a book author, and we work together on the outline, essentially at that point, you start marketing your book that's going to come out next year.
Got you. Okay.
You
Okay.
start developing those communities. You start getting things started and getting people talk and getting people ready for this book that you're coming out with. And that's why I call myself a book coach as well as a ghostwriter, because most people don't know how to do that.
Right.
And,
I
I have decades of marketing experience, and I'm not going to do your marketing for you, but I will tell you, first of all, I'll put you in touch with a PR person if you want somebody to do it for you, but I'm not going to do it. Right now I've got an author that has an awesome concept. In fact, I'm co-authoring with her, and she doesn't have a really good ability to put things together. She does a lot of things. She loves Twitter, if that gives you an idea. To me, that's the scatter world. But the fact that she's doing all these different things and they're not really integrated into a platform is hurting her. So I've started sending her examples of what I see people posting on Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff like that, saying, my book is coming out next year.
Right.
And they're sharing important principles that are going to be talked about in the book now.
So it's like a teaser, like a trailer for a movie that's coming out in the summer, and they start pitching it all through the winter until the summer comes and everybody goes to see the movie because they've seen enough trailer bits.
Exactly. It's more than that, but that's the same kind of appeal. And every time you post something to build your community, you give them something valuable, something that is, can change their life. It's not one of those, buy my book next year things. It's like this woman. She's a sales trainer, and what we are writing the book on is the fact that social media can kill sales or it can enhance sales. And there are different techniques you use if you're going to use social media to grow your sales pipeline and make more money. And that's what her book is going to be about. It's a little bit different than most books, but everything, the sales tips that relate to social media that she can put out now, even though the book won't be ready until next year, every little sales tip is going to be valuable to her audience.
That's right. And intrigue, excuse me, and intrigue them and get them ready to buy the book when it comes out. They'll be going, there's got to be more valuable information in this book. I better get a copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Now your question was, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I was talking about, would it be cheating to hire a ghostwriter to write the book, or should I write it myself? And I think the answer I'm coming to is it's not cheating. It's actually very brilliant, because number one, if you're thinking about doing it yourself and you haven't ever written a book before, I would have jumped in and done exactly what you said, start writing the book, as opposed to going, wait a minute, how am I going to leverage this book? Who's my audience? What kind of message do I want to get out there? What's my biggest impact? What's my inventory of skills that I want to share with people? I mean, you've got such a brilliant way of getting started in doing all that evaluation, and you haven't even talked about putting a word on paper yet.
That's absolutely right. Ghostwriting, and later on we'll talk about the book, the digital book that people will be able to download. And I go into a lot of those descriptions in there. People will get ghostwriting confused with co-authoring, with editing, with all sorts of things, and it's none of those things. For me, well, why don't I get into how I go about doing it in a minute?
I would love that, yeah.
The next step is, at this point, after we've done the things we talked about earlier, now we write the outline.
Okay, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and from that outline, it will kind of set out some chapters for the book.
Mm-hmm.
And once we have that, then we can start developing a book.
Okay.
And what the author does is we take one of those points that we have on the outline and we get on, I sometimes use Zoom, certainly for my international clients, but I use freeconferencecall.com most of the time because it's just easier and you can call from anywhere. It's just simple.
Yeah.
And I record those conversations on that narrow topic that we've already determined that we're going to talk about that day. And we record that, and then the author is finished until the next recording. They go out and build their platform.
Yes.
But there's a couple of things that are different in that way. One of them is most people do what Dennis does when they go to write a book. They speak from the stage eloquently, relatively easy to understand, even though he was a little bit dense, he wasn't hard to understand. And then when they sit down to write their book, they become a college student trying to impress their professor. It has a whole different language.
Yeah.
You know, it's just very, very different. And by recording, especially people that work in an extemporaneous environment, like speakers and coaches, for them to change hats and go into writer mode, for most of you, it's not going to work all that well. But if I am just asking you questions, and one of the things that I do is I ask, like a coach, I ask you to tell me more. And what did that mean? And what else happened? And all the kinds of coaching questions that I do as a book coach to make sure that your story has value. And when it's all finished, what's important to me, okay, Barbara, if I were to work for you, what I would want to do is to do it like we've talked about. And when the book is finished, you hand that book over to your best friend and they look at it and they can see your voice. They can see your personality. They know it's your book. And if it looks like my book because I'm such a good writer, I've failed you.
Oh, I love hearing that, because I'll tell you, I did have somebody that worked in, like, edited chapter that I wrote for somebody else's book, and when I got it back, it was like, who is this?
Exactly. Exactly. I have to tell you, in my business, I had a business model when I first started because, you know, I've been in marketing my whole life. I've been in business my whole life. And so what I had put together is the idea that I would be the person out there getting the business, being the CEO of the business, but I would hire writers to do first drafts. I would then go in and get them the way, and I'd train them how to write like I know needs to be written. I have gone through more than a dozen college graduated, high-level writers, and it has never worked out. Because they cannot get it out of their head that it's not their book.
That makes sense. You know,
all their life they've been getting all these praise about how well they write and how brilliant they are. I mean, most writers get paid for their own brilliance, their own ability to put words together. And so some people think, if they're trying to choose a ghostwriter, somebody that has written a lot of books is the best choice. Well, my belief is if they wrote a book like I teach people to do, they wouldn't have time to be ghostwriting for others. They would be using their own platform to go somewhere with the books that they've written. But it just proves they're not making any profit from their own books, that they're out there asking for ghostwriting work.
Yes.
So,
yes, that makes a lot of sense.
When I have written or co-written 5 different books myself, and they were collaboration books, and they were from me being a trained coach. The fact that I've been trained as a coach is one reason why I'm able to help people write their books. I did it in Kathy Frank, not Kate. And I never made any money off of them.
Okay.
So any money. I think I just dipped into 4 figures for 5 books.
Yeah.
So, so it's really important to me to think in terms of writing a book, not just to be able to say you're an author and you've got a cover, you've got a book you can hand people, but for it to be something of value to both your readers and to you, because today's world is overwhelmed with information. And a lot of authors think, well, what could I write that's going to be valuable to my reader, because there's so much out there already.
Right.
It's exactly the opposite of that, because there is so much overwhelm. If you develop a community of people that you're talking to that is very specific to what you have to share, and talk to them, you're saving them hours. You're saving them so much, and doubt. You're giving them assurance. The fact that you have at least a narrow amount of information that's extremely valuable to a narrow niche of people, then you can leverage that knowledge into a platform that can make you money.
Yes, I love hearing that, because it's really important for coaches to decide on a niche that they're going into so that they can target their marketing. And I'm hearing the same thing would be true of a book. You're already going to be attracting the right people to you when you're putting out your snippets about the book and you're sharing with others. So it just makes so much sense to market the book first, have your plan of how you're going to promote the book, and what is your benefit that you want to get out of it as the author. So do you want to get out and speak? Do you want to conduct workshops? Do you want to teach classes? What is your ultimate goal now that you've got the book? I think, I think about the books, well, there's so many out there, but a lot of people think that maybe they're going to write a book and they're going to get instantly wealthy from writing a book.
Build it and they will come.
Right? Or that they're going to sell so many copies of the book that they're going to not have to work again. And I think that's really not true, and I would love to hear your aspect on that, or your thoughts on that.
Well, I can't tell you, as a ghostwriter, at least once a month, I have somebody come to me and pitch me their idea for this best-selling book, because they just know it's going to take off. And because it's going to take off, I should be able to write it for them free and just get paid on the other end.
Residual.
And I admire the fact that they really believe in their concepts, but they don't understand the book market. The truth is, the average nonfiction author sells no more than 600 books in their lifetime. Wow. And that includes those big, well-known people that write nonfiction books. I mean, how many times have you seen somebody that you really know well from TV or politics or something like that, and you go into half-price books and find their book for $2?
That's true.
The reason why is because it's very hard to sustain profit from book sales. Yeah. It's virtually impossible. You're going to have whatever you sell is probably going to sell for the most part in the first 12 months.
There you go.
So, that's why it's important for you to get people prepared and have a community that's watching, because if you do this and you have this community, you have, say, 600 sales in your first 3 months. That's a realistic goal, because you've built this community. Well, if you continue to build that community, and there's even things we do within the book because of my marketing background to get people to share their contact information, because you're going to give them a bonus. Yes. And when they share their contact information with you, you start building this community that may come to your events. Whatever you're going to give them, they are now in your circle of friends. Well, guess what? Book 2 is a whole lot easier to sell.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
And this continues to happen. And then you become, someone who has really great influence. But you don't write the book and get influence from that alone. It just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single instance.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think that the book is going to provide a lot of value for the coach, and it's going to help them to build their following, but it's really not necessarily going to help them with sales. They're going to need to get out there and promote the book to get some sales on that. And it's great that they have the book because it gives them an authority position, right?
Exactly. And it's not the book sales that it promotes. What it's going to enhance is what you get paid as a speaking fee if you're a speaker.
Yes.
How much you can charge people for your coaching.
Yes.
What kind of programs you can put together because you're a book author.
Right.
I have a friend who is a very well-paid public speaker, and in the last I go to these workshops because I enjoy public speaking and will be doing it someday, but we won't go off on that tangent. But she said that if you don't have a book, then there is a ceiling to how much you can make as a public speaker.
That makes sense.
But if you've got a book coming up that you can describe and outline, then you can go on the speakers bureaus and say, upcoming book about this topic. Guess what? You're going to get more bookings. You're going to get paid probably twice as much. And then when that book comes out, then you get paid more, you get more bookings, you may even get media appearances on the local or national news stories. You're going to become a subject matter expert in the minds of everyone. And working on those media connections, working on those speakers bureaus or whatever, that's the kind of thing you need to be doing while I'm writing your book.
Yeah. Developing your network of people that you want to go and letting them know your book's coming out. I'm ready. I'll be ready with the book at this time, and I'd love to get just start networking right there. That makes so much sense. So I think that's really an important point, that it's not the book sales that are going to make you rich and famous necessarily, but having a book really is a great asset when it comes to getting yourself out there and getting your foot in the door. It's like a great big business card to get your foot.
A huge business card. And one thing that most new authors don't even think about, if you are a public speaker, this is if you're not a public speaker, I understand, but if you like to get out and speak in front of people, even if they're small groups, say for example, there's an awful lot of organizations that have a very limited budget of what they'll pay a speaker, but almost all of them have an education budget too. So if you say, okay, I'll speak for the fee that you have in your budget, but please use your education budget to buy a book for everybody that attends.
I love it. That's great. Yeah, I've heard of authors getting that opportunity they sell a book, they buy like 250 books because that's how many people are expecting to come to the event. And they'll take a lower fee if they need to, because they know that they're going to make the book sales either at the back of the room, or they're going to have the event manager buy the books.
But let's contrast the back of the room to the meeting planner going through their education department to buy all the books for all the attendees.
Yeah.
If you sell in the back of the room, you're going to have to hire somebody to come be there to sell those books.
Right.
And you're going to, if you do a good job of speaking, everybody's going to want to be talking to you.
Right.
And to get to help this person you've hired to get even back to the back of the room to participate in the book sales can be a chore if you've done a good job.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that scenario. The scenario if everybody in the audience already has a book,
yeah, that's great.
all you have to do is to stand and let them stand in line. They'll come up and want you to sign the book.
Yeah. That's great.
And you don't have to hire somebody. You don't have to have that added work. And you're more of an expert because they've got a book in their hand.
Right. Exactly. That makes so much sense. So obviously there's a lot of value in speaking with you and working with you. From your experience and your knowledge, especially your marketing background and everything that you've talked about has been so valuable. Go ahead and share. I know you had a thought.
Well, I just wanted to say that we haven't talked about self-publishing today. They'll learn more of that when they download the book. But self-publishing is disrupting books in general.
Yes.
And I highly recommend it. I could go on and on about that. But the bottom line, the thing about a self-published book is don't make it look self-published. Make it look like a traditional book, and that's not that hard to do. It'll just take a little bit of an investment of both time and talent. Oh gosh, I had a point that I was going to make.
And maybe the contrast between self-publishing and getting a publisher.
That's the disruption, just to go to where most books these days are self-published, as if you look at the number of books. But the way I ghostwrite is disrupting the self-publishing world, because most ghostwriters are hired for the fact that they have the college degrees, they have this flowery language. Editors are hired to basically sanitize the author's writing. Everything that is in the system of ghostwriting and editing and books is the direct opposite of the way I work. I work totally different than any of those. I finally found a publisher that has the same concepts as me, and I'm just thrilled to death.
Oh, that's brilliant. Did you want to mention them?
I probably shouldn't now because we don't have anything official, but
that's
it
good.
looks very, very good. And, I can introduce them to this publisher one-on-one, but I don't think I want to put it in this recording.
Got you. No problem. I totally understand. We're going to keep some things on the down low for the moment. Yeah. I think you've just been full of such valuable information for our audience, and I'm just wondering, is there anything else? First of all, I want to say the book that you've been mentioning throughout is the book that Kate wrote for people that are interested in publishing their own book and using a ghostwriter. That's pretty specific in that book, right? But you also talk in there about how to market yourself and plan for it, and how you're going to monetize and how you'll get a return on your investment, and all of that is in there as well, right?
Well, what I want people to understand is, if they want to be an author of a book, but they're absolutely certain they don't want a ghostwriter, they still can get value from this book. Yeah. Because it goes into all the misconceptions about ghostwriters, all the distinctions between all the different roles. I think I have, it's either 5 or 7 different kinds of edits they're done to a book. And most people just think editing is editing, and ghostwriting is the same as editing, and that ain't true.
Well, I think the book that you wrote would be valuable to anybody that's thinking about writing a book, number one, or thinking about having a ghostwriter number 2. And if you just want to know how to become more of an authority in your field, reading your book would be a great idea too.
Mm-hmm.
So I
I
mean, there's
agree.
a lot of value in that book that you wrote. Would you give us the title of that book?
Oh gosh. Yes, I'd be happy to. Now, I give one site. I do almost all my work with clients from um, authorityredefined.com.
Okay, that's
But
great. That's the website.
right.
Authorityredefined.com is Kate Frank's website. That's one way that you can reach out and get in touch with her. And another way is you can send an email to kate@authorityredefined.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book that she is actually giving away to you. So this very, very valuable book, if you're looking to write a book or thinking about having a ghostwriter or even thinking about doing a book, you need to read this book first so you're making all the right moves instead of all the wrong moves when you're getting ready to publish your book.
Well, the reason why I had to go look it up is because I wrote a lot of this book 4 years ago. Just to educate, because so many people had misconceptions about what I do. I wanted to write a book that would give them understanding of all these misconceptions, what was really true. I recently updated it, retitled it, so I had forgotten what I'd called it. And right now, the title of the book is Your Profitable Book. Now it's got a subtitle of Make More Money from Your Book, Learn How to Leverage Your Expertise Using a Book Coach and Ghostwriter.
Excellent.
So
yeah, so once somebody reaches out to you by email, then you can send them a copy of the book, or how does that work?
that can work, or also I'm going to give you a link that you can put in the notes,
Okay.
where they can just go directly to a download page and do that themselves without having to email me.
Perfect. That's great. So I keep you out of the loop a little bit. That's really wonderful.
Well, people feel a little bit more comfortable if they're not actually sending an email to me, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think they'll want to send an email to you and get to know you better and get to know more about your services, because your knowledge behind writing a book and what it takes, and the whole thing about being able to market the book and knowing your market and discovering what expertise you want to put in the book and what stories do you have to back that up. It's also important. And speaking with you, it seems like you'd make it an easy process as opposed to a painful process.
I can't tell you the number of people. I read, one of my colleagues had a blog post today, and he described all these nonfiction authors and all the things that they have in common. They want to make a difference in the world. They're passionate about their own authority knowledge. They want to be recognized for their knowledge and all these other things. And he said that is true. And then he talked about all the things that were not necessarily true, which were misconceived. And at the end of his post, he said the one thing that is common among virtually every single author, it's they're dissatisfied with their publisher.
Oh, wow. That's interesting, because they felt like probably that they didn't get enough promotion, or that they thought the publisher was going to do bookings for them or something like that.
And that's self-publishing or traditional publishing. And I call it self-publishing because most people don't self-publish by themselves.
Yes.
Most of them hire a hybrid company that provides publishing services.
Right.
And I highly recommend that, doing it on your own. Well, I'll put it this way. Would you rather hire somebody like you were when you first coached somebody, or would you rather have somebody that's like you coach now? Because you don't want to be the newbie
Right,
when you're
right.
doing something this important. You want to have somebody who knows what they're doing to hold your hand and move you through the process. It's well worth the money,
I agree.
because if you do it yourself, it's going to show that you've done it yourself. It's going to look amateur. You're going to have to work harder to get the book sold. You're going to have to work harder to get the opportunities to leverage that book. And spending just a little bit of money to get somebody to help you get it done right will gives you much more opportunity to
So
do
true.
something with it.
I agree. It's having that level of expertise is like, you wouldn't want to go to somebody that wasn't trained for your coaching.
Mhm.
You want to go to somebody who's, and they can make it so simple for you, as opposed to making it could be a very difficult, high
Exactly.
learning curve. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's like what,
You
like you
don't go
said.
to your neighbor with the same things you go to your coach with. You know?
Definitely, definitely, no. Well, do you have any other advice for anybody before we close for today? I want to thank you again so much for showing up today and providing such expertise. It's just been really, really wonderful. And I'm going to be posting this out on LinkedIn and probably Facebook and YouTube and all the normal social media
Wonderful.
places. But
And
I
I
just,
will as well.
oh, great, great. So before we close, though, did you have anything else that you'd like to share with everybody?
I guess the thing that I would want to share that is important is you know your value
Yeah.
because you see it every day in the work that you do. Right now you're changing the lives of dozens or hundreds of people. If you decide to share your book with the world, you can change millions of lives. It's just a matter of doing it right.
Yeah.
So if you want to really make a big impact on this world, give serious thought to becoming a book author.
I love it. I think that's really important. And like you said, do it right, because I just know there's a lot of people out there who've written a book and self-published and maybe haven't gotten the expertise to do it's like a low level of self-publishing, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
Balboa Press and Canary Press and those types of outfits that will help you get your book professionally designed and organized so that it'll go out there. But you really need, from what I'm learning, is a Kate Frank on your team to help you establish exactly what is it that you want to use this book for. It's your leverage piece for getting your self out there, for attracting people to you who like what you wrote, and now they want to get to know more about you. They want to come to your workshops, they want to come to your classes, they want to go on the retreat with you and spend more time with you because they read the book and they love you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what Kate Frank can get you to, as opposed to one of those little publishing companies that makes it look pretty, but they're not going to really help you
Yes.
what Kate does.
And I guess I have to add something else from what you say. Do not, please, do not hire a publishing company or get involved with a publishing company. Even if you don't want to use me, what I probably need to write, I've got probably some posts that address it, but the majority of publishers out there rip people off. And I could tell you all the different ways they do it, but that would be another interview. Just be very careful. Don't trust what they say. Look out for people that have these packages that sound like a lot of stuff, and they don't offer just publishing.
Yeah.
Those packages are usually where they rip you off, or they have these, there is a mechanism for them, okay. The way I go about working with clients is I call it a profit-ready book. Almost every publisher out there, of course the traditional publishers, but the hybrid or self-publishing support companies act like they're there for the author as well. But in most of the cases, they're there for their own profit. And they will cut corners on a lot of things that are important to your profit as an author.
Yeah, that's a good tip. You have to really be aware of the services that they provide. Are they experts in the industry? How much time are they going to spend with you? And what are you really going to get for your
Exactly.
investment? So that's a really
Because
good,
most people are not happy. Most people that are authors, if they go to a traditional publisher, they expect a lot in the way of marketing,
yeah,
but the truth is they don't do much.
yeah,
And if you go to a hybrid, just get somebody that knows marketing. If it's me,
yeah,
great, but if it's not, and have them look at the value of the things they're offering in that package, because they could say, I'm going to give you a website, but if it's a crappy website, what does that help you?
yeah, right,
You
right.
know, and there is an awful lot of that kind of thing out there. I know a publisher that I no longer work with because that's exactly what they did. They did an excellent job of getting their authors to Amazon bestseller status. They
Nice.
did that well.
Yeah, nice.
But their package included books, which, you know, don't pay a part of your package to buy books. Uh, it included a website. It included the listing on Amazon and the blurb about that, the author page, all that stuff. They did a lousy job of all that. Their
Wow.
cover designs were templates.
Oh my
Their
God.
interior designs were, the last time I worked with them, I was involved in the interior design redos.
Oh,
They got fed up with me because I kept saying, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right, because they didn't know how to do the interior design of the book.
wow. That says a lot right there. Yeah, so be careful when you get going to independent publishing companies that are going to publish for you. It's really good if you know what you're doing. If you have somebody that has experience in the industry, they can tell you what to watch out for and look for in those terms. And I'm just so pleased to have met you, Kate. And I feel it's been a real big honor to speak with you today because your knowledge about writing the book, but most importantly, marketing the book before you even write it, is so important and such a great message for anybody who's an aspiring author to know. So I want to thank you so much for your time today, and I want to remind people that they can learn more about you at authorityredefined.com. You can also reach out to Kate personally if you send an email to Kate at authorityredefined.com, and we're going to put a link under the video so you can download her great book, The Profitable Book, so you know how to position yourself and get yourself established in terms of what are you going to market when you get out there and get that book done. And so thanks again, Kate, for all your time today. I really, really appreciate your expertise.
It's a pleasure to have talked to you, and know that I have a great respect for coaches, and that's why coaching has grown so much, is because it is something extremely valuable to people.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I couldn't agree more. Oh, gosh. All right, Kate, we'll say goodbye now. Thank you so much for your time today.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.